It's Hump Day, Irish fans. Happy Wednesday. Lucky Lefty Podcast. I'm your boy, SD2 Mike Shaun Davis, my partner, Malik Zaire, the original Lucky Lefty. We are brought to you by Onora Whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. It is that premium American whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. And if you're going to drink, by all means, make sure that you do so. You got to do it responsibly. We tap in today to have a conversation about the Notre Dame defense. We'll hear from defensive coordinator Al Golden, who had some very interesting things to say about the defensive line that kind of echoes what I said about replacing the guys that are going on to the NFL. We'll tap into that probably in the second half of the show. Linebackers also met with the media today. We'll probably save those young gentlemen until tomorrow. But we want to start off today's show discussing a controversial top 10 had a lot of people up in arms, specifically down in Knoxville and Baton Rouge. Josh Pate, 24/7 Sports, released his top 10 programs in college football. His top 10 programs in college football. Notre Dame came in at number 6 on his list. Tennessee and LSU did not make the list. That's why those fan bases have been going crazy for the last 48 hours. Notre Dame came in at number 6 left. But the question of the day, LL question of the day, is Notre Dame a top 5 college football program? Is Notre Dame a top 5 college football program? Because I could debate that there's one team in this top 5. If we're not going by recency bias, and we're just judging it based upon the consistency of a program going back to, say, 2017. I think there's a serious debate that Notre Dame should be one spot higher. It should be a top 5 team.
I agree.
Right? So, just so you know, he had Notre Dame at number 6. He had Clemson at number 5. He had Ohio State at number 4. He had Michigan at number 3. He had Alabama at number 2. And he had Georgia at number 1. Now, there is one team in that top 5 that I think, just based upon consistency, there is no way, because they've done exactly in the last 2 years, they got the 2 college football playoffs. Notre Dame had already done that since 2017. And Notre Dame hasn't lost less than 9 games in that same time period. Heck, most people didn't think Notre Dame would get the 9 wins after the tumultuous start last year. Somehow, some way, they made it, right?
That's right.
So in his argument, the reason I went to 2017, because in his argument for Notre Dame to be in the 6th spot, he pointed out those points that if you go back and based upon their consistency as a program since 2017, you have to acknowledge that the Irish have been one of the most consistent programs in the nation, winning over 9 games every year and going to 2 college football playoffs.
That's right.
Michigan hasn't done that.
No.
It has gone to the same 2 college football playoffs as Notre Dame, even though they did it in consecutive years. That's why I say if you're going based upon the recency bias, then okay, you side with Michigan. But if we're talking about consistency, which is what you declared Notre Dame to be, the more consistent program, then without question, I think Michigan should be 6 and Notre Dame should be number 5. Even with Michigan beating Ohio State in back-to-back years, over the last 6 to 7 years, I would never put Michigan ahead of Ohio State.
Yeah, wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it.
So, what do you think? I'm going to look at the chat and see
No,
how fans feel about it.
I definitely think we deserve to be top 5 over Clemson. I think Clemson has had a great stretch of players, but I think from a program standpoint, And overall, I think we collectively have made more of an impact. I do think that those championship Clemsons do have in the recent years give them the edge over us, but a place where you would want to be, I would say Notre Dame and South Bend over Clemson all day.
I mean, we understand you're part of the program, bro. So you're gonna stick up for your brotherhood. I will push back just a little bit. You have to give Clemson credit for getting to the top of the mountain twice, um, and being in the playoff multiple times where they didn't get to the top of the mountain. They were in the national championship game in 19 against LSU and came up short. So, I give Clemson a lot of credit, and I would even debate that Clemson deserves to be number 3. I think Clemson deserves to be ahead of Ohio State, to be honest. And we're going about consistency and championships. Michigan should be 6. Notre Dame should be 5. Ohio
Yeah,
State,
yeah, Michigan definitely shouldn't be in there when you're considering those factors.
yeah.
That's what I would say. Okay, you make it make sense when you say Clemson should be 3, because definitely Alabama, Georgia, and then Clemson in the last years, Ohio State. I would say us, then Michigan, but I
So
don't know how.
you want to put Notre Dame at 4 behind Clemson.
No. I put Ohio State over us and then us.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
But
So
then and then Texas, I would say will be behind Michigan in terms of the next 5 years.
yeah, yeah. And I understand the talent that comes through Ohio State, and they dominate the Big Ten until the last 2 years when Michigan got the best of them. But just looking at it, um, I would definitely go. No, we're going to debate this because we talked about recency bias, right? So recency bias, there's no reason to use that to elevate Michigan over Notre Dame. So we really have to debate this Georgia Alabama thing, bro. Right?
Alabama should be. I had Alabama 1 anyway.
You know what? I really thought about that because I'm saying to myself, I understand that Georgia's coming off national championships back to back. I understand that, but they've only been at the top of the mountain 2 years.
2 years.
The
2 years.
extended success of Nick Saban in Alabama,
Is unmatched.
I just don't know if I can eradicate that in 2 years.
No.
Now,
Not a chance.
yo, shout out to Kirby Smart for finally being the coach off of the tree of Nick Saban to finally get him and beat him. But look, he took a lot of spankings from Nick Saban before he was able to get to the top of the mountain.
Oh, for sure.
So I think that 1-2 is debatable as well, right? Because if we're not going to use the recency bias for Michigan to stay at 3, then we have to really debate 1 and 2.
Recency bias wouldn't even put. I mean, if you don't use the recency bias, you're not putting Georgia at 2. You're putting Georgia at behind us. Well, because they won
No, you can't
championship.
do that.
I
You
would put them
can't do
behind
that.
Ohio State. I would say it's Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, us, Michigan. If you're not
I'm-
using recency bias.
I'll stop right there to say Apple Podcast, Spotify, CFB Nation in conjunction with Irish Breakdown. All of our great content. Leave 5 stars. We greatly appreciate all your comments. We respond to all. It's the Lucky Lefty Podcast, home of the misguided passion. You already know.
Got a passion.
We spin it different. Left, let me push back just a little bit. This is an interesting conversation. This is an interesting conversation. Because once again, if we're going based upon going back to 2017, I have to push back and say Alabama should definitely be in the consideration for the number 1 spot. Because it's not just based upon the last 2 years. If you go back to 2016, 17, it's hard for anyone to convince me that Alabama has not been the best college football program over those 6 or 7 years. Please convince me. Give me stats. Give me anything other than the last 2 years. We're talking about consistency. It's pretty. I think they have a debate to be at that number one spot. And I think that SEC is going to be hotly contested because I think Nick Saban and that team down in Tuscaloosa is going to have a huge chip on their shoulder. I just don't know if they have the quarterback left. I just don't know if they have the quarterback.
Yeah, and that's the ultimate factor when you go into the SEC because before Alabama's dominance at that position, Alabama was doing it in the run game like the SEC. SEC, the last time the run game was the leading dominant factor was Derrick Henry. After
Mm,
Derrick Henry left, it became a who can get a quarterback that can take it to the next level. That's when you started to see the various Alabama quarterbacks. LSU snuck Joe Burrow in there. You get to see quarterback-led teams in the SEC that were successful. Even the ones that were the middle of the road had successful quarterbacks like Florida with Anthony Richardson. So I think that um, Derrick Henry was the last uh, great nuclear running threat in the SEC that made the Alabama who they were.
mhm.
And you have to commend Nick Saban for being able to maneuver from and not having the ego of being so dominant in the running game to expand to where the game was going to, and to be able to capitalize on that in the midst of transition. After a 5-year period of dominance, you have another 5-year period of dominance through another way of doing it. You can't help but put him at the number one spot. But for the rest of us, I do think that the trend of the next dynasty of the top 5-tier championship teams is coming, and I think Notre Dame is in line. Even if we're at 5 or 6, we're still in line to be at
Yeah,
that shooting for the top 3 spot in the
yeah.
next 5 years, in my opinion.
Yeah, let's check out some people in the chat. Sensational all the way out in Vegas. He says Bama, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Our guy Jay Henry. This is an interesting comment. Jay Henry, shout out to you, our guy. Thank you for tapping in. 7 years would clearly be Bama, and LSU would have to be in the list. But 5 years is Georgia at one. And see, this is me just going based upon the criteria that Josh Pate put out there for elevating Notre Dame to the
Right?
sixth spot. He used consistency to put Notre Dame in the sixth spot. I said, if that's what you're going to
Our
use, then you have to use the same
consistency would be
criteria. Go ahead, Left.
we're as consistent as Alabama without the championships. We've had the same consistent 9, 10 win seasons as Alabama in the last 10 years.
Yeah,
We just don't come out with the conference titles and the championships like we should have. I mean, even in 12, we were undefeated. 18, we were undefeated. Uh, what was it? 15, we was 10-win team, lost in getting into the playoffs by 4 points. Two of the points that we lost to Clemson, they ended up going. So there's been a lot of moments to where, unlike some other teams where Georgia was middle of the road until even with Todd Gurley, they was pretty middle of the road with
yeah,
Aaron Murray and those guys. We
yeah.
were still a better consistent team from a win-loss standpoint than they were, and that was, the last 10 years. So
Right.
I think we definitely are the most complete, consistent team if we're going by any metric standpoint of a period of time. I think it definitely puts us in the top 4 from consistency alone. I know we may not have gotten the ultimate prize like the other 3 teams in the top 4,
Yeah,
but we have more consistency through a decade than a Georgia can say, even though Georgia elevates themselves a little faster because they won a couple. But if you take away the historic and
well,
damn near greatest seasons,
to be fair, Georgia has Georgia and Notre Dame have gone head to head in that time period, and Georgia has won both matchups.
they
So I
have won
mean,
both.
you've been able to see it on the field.
Yeah,
Just to be
we
fair,
but this is a game about longevity. So even though we may not have won those 2 matchups in those 10 years, how many matchups would we have won against Georgia at that time? I think we'd probably split it 5-5, if
yeah,
anything. But Georgia's not far from us either. I would say Georgia's 6 or 5 if we're 4.
yeah.
So it's we're splitting hairs at that aspect. But I do believe from a consistency standpoint, you can't help and you can't deny. And the reason why you have to use consistency is because Michigan has no business being above us. And if you're doing anything on a metric basis of consistency. Michigan is Johnny come lately. They dropped down to probably 8. They
Yeah.
haven't become relevant since the last 2 years. Anything if that's the case, Illinois can be in the top,
Hey, 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 hey,
5
hey.
if
You about
they
to throw
turn that thing
shots. You
around.
about to throw shots. You about to throw shots.
I'm
Look at you.
saying though,
You look
we're
at you.
giving Michigan. Think about it. We're giving Michigan 2 seasons to put them in over us. I mean, that's absurd. They haven't even
Why
put more NFL players in the league than us. So,
you didn't have to
and a
bring
lot
the
of
land
teams.
of Lincoln into it though?
I'm just saying if a 2 year turnaround is all it takes to get in the top 5, then any team in the Big Ten can do it. And Illinois should have won last year, so that's why I said them.
Oh, Illinois definitely outplayed them at Michigan Stadium. That goes without
Right.
question.
That's right.
I got ND9. Thank you for tapping in. He says, now we're really spinning it different for the most part. We agree that 9 to 10 wins isn't enough. Now we're using it as an argument to be in the top 5. Never mind. Consistency, all that matters. First of all, we're not spinning anything different. We're telling you what Josh Pate said. And based upon his criteria, his list should have Notre Dame at 5, based upon the criteria he used to create the list. That's not on us,
That's right.
right? For people that you want to say Notre Dame should be 6th. Who's better since 2017?
You can't say Michigan.
USC, not with 5-win seasons.
No, yeah.
No. Texas,
No.
no. Who? LSU. LSU had back-to-back seasons 6 and 7, 5 and 5. Stop. Stop.
And
Who?
they was 8-5 with Joe Burrow this first year, wasn't he, or something like that?
Exactly. So who are we putting in front of Notre Dame? As disappointed as you must be with Notre Dame not winning
It's
a
the
national
fact. It's the
championship.
fact that we kept losing to one of the 3 teams above us that made us look like everybody else. Like if we split one of them championships with Bama or Clemson or Ohio State in that 7 year period or whatever, then
Absolutely.
they wouldn't put us in the tier 3 and 2 with Michigan and all these other teams that can confuse us. So
Yeah.
if we had one, we don't even have one. If we had one in those 7 years, we wouldn't have the confused hate that people give us, like Michigan is even close to us or something.
Yeah. And then for me, I had no problem as he went through the list because I think he had USC at 9, if I'm not mistaken.
That's fair.
I think he had USC at like 9 or 10. And he went on through the list, and I was like, okay, this is making sense.
That's
And
like
then
putting Mississippi State when they had Dak Prescott.
and
That's how
then
you
he
put
ended
them
up,
this year.
oh, that's a good point. He ended up putting Notre Dame at 6. And I said, okay, let me listen to what he's about to say. And so when he pointed out consistency, I said, okay, this is the criteria you're using. Then that's fine. But then you end up with Clemson behind Michigan, and Clemson has 2 national championships. I'm like, wait a minute.
You got to
I'm
throw the
like,
list out. You got to throw the
I'm
list
like,
out.
this is questionable now. Because now you're basically going based upon the last 2 years to elevate Michigan
And you throwing
above
legacy
Clemson.
in there.
Absolutely. It's like either you're going to use a time period like you did for Notre Dame to land at 6 and use that for the entire list, or we're going to use recency bias, and that might move Notre Dame back a little bit on the list. I mean,
It would move us back on the list for sure, because we've just been a plateau type of program. But Michigan still shouldn't be above us because they haven't done anything other than go back to back. But they haven't put the seasons together either.
yeah, I want to debate this Alabama, Georgia just a little bit more, right? So we go back to, let's be fair, Alabama's record going back to 2017 is probably, I still might lean Georgia without being recent, using the recency bias. Wow, this is going to be interesting. 11-2 last year. That was a down year. 13-2 since 2017. They have made one, two, three, four college football championships, and they've won two of them. So that's two championships, four college football championship appearances. 11-2, 13-2, 13-0, 11-2, 14-1, 13-1, 14-1. That, bro, I mean, that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't say
You
that.
put that next to Georgia. I mean, if you just want to use, maybe
And
you
our
got to the point.
schedule every year is solid.
Yeah.
It's not like we're having years where we're not playing anybody. We're playing solid schedules those years where we're going, the records we're going.
Yeah. Yeah. See, Jay Henry, I agree. At first, he said the last 3 years at the beginning of the show, right? As that was going to be the parameters. But when he talked about certain teams, he started talking about going back to 2017 when he went against LSU and Tennessee. He went back further than the last 3 years to point out that they had bad seasons. So it's like you change the parameters of the discussion based upon how you wanted to fit your list, and that's not fair. That's fine parameters. That's equal across the board, and it really doesn't change the list that much as far as the teams on the list. It just shifts things a little bit. The top
It
five, in
always
my
shifts
opinion.
us out of the equation. That's what it's about.
That's
It's
it.
just a way to
That's it. Now, if you want to go
formulate.
last 3 years, Notre Dame probably is ranked 6th over the last 3 years. If you want to go the last 6, 7, like you said, when you
We
argue
only
for
move
Notre
up.
Dame,
Yeah, we only move up the longer you move back.
you have to move them ahead of Michigan. You have to move them ahead of Michigan. It's not even close.
Only way you count Michigan is if it's the last 3.
Well, you have to. They were 2-4 in the COVID year. I don't know if you really want to count that against them because the Big Ten really didn't, you know. But I mean, that was a difficult year, and they responded with back-to-back college football championship appearances. They got they got spanked by Georgia. The TCU game, they were getting spanked. They made a valiant comeback, but they still.
Hell, in the COVID year, we went 8, 9 games and we won all them games. So we didn't even take off in the COVID year.
COVID year, Notre Dame ended up making the playoff though.
That's what I'm saying. So
Playing
that's
the
probably
ACC
Brian
schedule.
Kelly's biggest accomplishment, being consistent through a pandemic.
That was his best coaching job.
That was his
Some may
best
say.
coaching job in his 10 years because, circumstances, and we were already doing good, and a lot of the programs that were doing solid took a dip. Coach Kelly found a way not to, and that's a special quality.
Lucky Lefty Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Check out the YouTube channel, Lucky Lefty Podcast. Subscribe, share, smash that like button for us. It helps our videos get views. Hit the notification bell. Every time we post a video like we did this morning, there was a new video of Malik talking about the second year for Marcus Freeman and what it's going to look like. That posted this morning. Check that out right after the show on the Lucky Lefty Podcast YouTube page. CFB Nation in conjunction with Irish Breakdown. You can go download our podcast at Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's the Lucky Lefty Podcast. We spin it different. Left, got an opportunity to watch the McDonald's All American game last night.
That's right.
That was a pretty cool moment, man. I can only imagine what it would be like to be someone like LeBron James, to be sitting courtside watching your son, your firstborn, participating in the same All-Star game that you got an opportunity to participate in.
That's right.
Proud mama, proud papa moment.
That's right.
For the James family, for LeBron and Savannah James. Bronny looked like he belonged, Left. Amidst all the criticism.
I think Bronny went through one of the natural stages of a basketball player through the ranks of what recruiting looks like today, and the hype couldn't stick because his route was just so genuine, and as much as people wanted to tag him with different circumstances, Like,
Yeah,
oh, you're supposed to be the number one player just because your dad's LeBron. I mean, you didn't see it affect him as a player. He stayed his course, which is something that I think is the most commendable because you could succumb to a lot when you're expected to be the number one player just because your name, and for him to get better through the years, I think it shows that he was able to block out the distractions like his dad has been so great at doing, but also show that he made us comforted that he doesn't have to be the greatest player like his dad, but he's a pretty damn good one that people still would love to see on their team, and still he can hold his own. And I think he's making his own name for himself where he may not be LeBron, but I think people give him a lot of credit, just like how they do Austin Rivers.
yeah.
He's got more.
He definitely looked like he belonged. As I said before, if John Calipari doesn't make it to the Final Four with the talent he's getting next year,
Yeah.
get him
He
up out
had
of there.
three on the top 10. He
Yeah,
had three on the top 10.
I told you yesterday, Left, get him up out of there. If you can't win with the three guys you have coming in,
In the top 10, and then the
you,
two other like top 25 or something like that.
you got to go. And I'll tell you this: if LeBron, I think Kevin Durant has hinted at it, other NBA players, Gilbert Arenas has hinted at it, and the buzz seems to be going that way. If Bronny does decide to select USC as the school he plays for next year, that campus is going to be bananas with him and Juju Watson.
That's right. That's right.
Him and Juju, they are going to sell out every men and women's game on USC's campus next year. It's going to be
100%.
bananas.
100%. It's gonna be ridiculous. And just the buzz around campus in general. And then only can imagine the recruits that come after just because they're there. I mean, it's gonna be a huge affair.
Yeah, and Coach Neil Ivy, of course, she has a stud coming to South Bend, Hannah Hidalgo, who broke
Yeah,
the
she hit
scoring
like a
record.
game winner, right? Or
She
something like
broke the
that.
scoring record. She's fantastic. Look, this is my stance. Neil Ivy can recruit. She's proven she can recruit guards. But until somebody recruits the bigs at the level that Don Staley does in South Carolina,
Yeah, they got no chance.
it's gonna be tough,
That
right?
number 23, is the big, right, for South
Dude,
Carolina.
they had and then
He's huge.
what's her name? I forget her name. Fert Leiter, a leader or something like that.
Yeah, something, I don't know.
She shoot from 30 feet like Steph Curry.
God
Don
damn.
Staley's never had a guard like that, but she's going to South Carolina to match up with the bigs that are going to be there even after the automatic double double graduates. Look, it's a tough road to hold, and I think a lot of people underrate the job that Don Staley has done. They would have won in 2020 if the tournament had not been canceled, and they would probably be looking at going back to back to back, or either 3 and 4 years, or 3 and 5 years, or something like that. Incredible job, and just they're averaging 35 points. They bring three freshmen off the bench left, and they're leading the tournament in bench scoring. Think about that. She's bringing three freshmen off the bench, and South Carolina leads the tournament in bench scoring. That's crazy. So everybody's talking about Aaliyah Boston leaving, and I love that little guard, little Z. She's a G. She's a G on the offensive end and the defensive end. They both leave next year, but she's got money in the bank just with the freshman class and with the sophomore class that will be coming back. So Neil Ivy, I think, needs one more class, and she has to be able either the transfer portal or through recruiting. She has to be able to answer South Carolina in the paint. You have to find an answer in the paint. To at least make it even in the paint, to give your guard play the opportunity to take over the game.
Because
If you
Nielle's
say
gonna
something.
win with guards because she has a history. She's
Right.
got to get that. They should get that bigs going. I think her assistant coaches can help doing that. But she do that. I mean, she's she's got everything she wants because the guard play is going to be handled. You know, you got Olivia Miles in the pipeline with KK Bradford and
Yeah.
everybody else.
And even when they won with Enrique, you know, they had solid play in the paint. They had Brianna. She protected the paint. She rebounded. She was a great defender. She came in McDonald's All American thinking she might be a great offensive player. Because of injuries, she had to change her tune, but she was a key call in those last championships for Muffin McGraw. So, man, that was cool. We switched to Al Golden and what he had to say about the Notre Dame defense. We'll talk about it next, coming up on the Lucky Lefty podcast. We spin it different. All right, Lef. Yesterday you gave us what Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman were going to look like in year 2 of his regime. I want you to think about it and tell me what's going to look different in year 2 of Al Golden's regime as the defensive coordinator.
I think in year 2 you'll see a lot of cleanup work, more detailed on things like coverage. I think you'll see more detailed work with the confidence in them going more man, but also just cleaning up the work, especially from the veteran players, on tackling in space. I think our tackling should be the thing we should notice. It should be a thing that I know Al Golden has taken down as a note on things to work on. But tackling in open space should be the obvious uh, uh, thing that we have improved on because one, we have more athleticism and a youth energy that if we're in the wrong place, we're going to still blow something up because we got a lot of athletes and explosive power. And I think he's going to trust a lot more of the blitzes to hit home when he's seeing guys that are young like Jalen Snead getting his head in there and mixing up some plays. So you're going to see communication. You're going to see tackling in open space increase, and you're going to see maybe a mix of different coverages. Now you have a secondary that can do a lot more. You can see a secondary that can play maybe a combo coverage where they play a zone on one side, man on one side. You have the confidence that you can single up guys and maybe try to take guys out of the game. I think Ben Morrison could be a threat to have his own island, and maybe Cam develop to have his own island. And then once you can go one-on-one, there's a lot more you can do with the defense. That's what Alabama's been really good at, making sure they can single up their other team's best receiver and then play and shrink the field with the other guys. So that's a key to having a dominant defense, and I think we have a key for that. So Algo knows the landscape of college football and what it looks like defensively, and that's an aggressive style, and I think our defense is going to pick up on it. And these young guys with the depth is going to make it hard to make us a team that's going to have a lot of weak points because we have so much depth.
Lucky Lefty Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Tap in, CFB Nation in conjunction with Irish Breakdown. Great content. Leave your comments. Leave us 5 stars. We greatly appreciate it. It's because of you, LL Nation, we continue to grow. We are the fastest growing Notre Dame podcast. It's the Lucky Lefty Podcast. We spin it different. Let's go to Al Golden, the defensive coordinator that met with the media earlier today left, and he talked about his expectations for the defensive line.
Obviously, Riley, Nana, Howard, Gabe, some real veterans in there. Vitello came on at the end of the year. He's carrying forward. Junior obviously played for us late in the year, which is awesome too. So that piece has been a really great addition, welcome addition. Love his attitude, and then we need some, that next generation of guys to really step up. Anye and Ford and Heinisch and those guys. So really, really excited about the way they're working on the field and off the field, meeting with Coach Extra and doing whatever they need to do.
Left, the sentiment's there. It seems that Al Golden has confidence in that defensive line. You point out that you have 4 guys coming back on that defensive line that took major snaps last year. He mentioned Howard Cross. He mentioned Riley Mills. He mentioned Nana. And then he talked about Jordan Botelho. You throw in Javonte Jean-Baptiste, and then you expect the rookies or the youngsters, Tyson Ford, Jason Anye, to step up. Donovan Heinisch. That's 7, 8 guys in a rotation. And you don't forget There will be a time after the spring where you might be able to bring in some new transfers because that transfer portal is going to be hot
It's
again
gonna be hot after this spring.
after the spring practices. And I believe that's when they got Chris Smith as a defensive tackle who had a fantastic pro day. He's going to end up on a roster in the NFL. You know, I thought he was going to go straight to his career. The athletic numbers that he put up at 310 pounds and the way he played and the film he put on second half of the season, he's definitely going to make an NFL team. But I definitely see 7 to 8 deep defensive line with the freshmen coming in that can be added into that. Jalen Sneed can be part of that on third downs. Notre Dame has the numbers. They have the experience in the first 4 or 5 guys. Now, the emergence of the youngsters will probably let us know how good that defensive line can ultimately be.
Absolutely. That's the thing that's going to be our key from the defensive line perspective is that we have depth and experience with the depth. Our 1s and 2s and 2s and a halves have some type of experience, and they're all good players to the sense where that group collectively will have a better impact than what a singular great player as Isaiah Fauske did. We may not have the Isaiah Fauske X factor, but the D-line has an X factor from depth, from energy, from players being, above average D linemen. We may not have a Will Anderson, but we got a bunch of Aiden Hutchinsons around, the guys that can have a bunch of potential. So it's exciting for Al Washington where he can coach the group and not feel like he's got a Michael Strahan on his hands, or he feels like he has the Giants D-line in 2007 when they played Brady, where all of them were really solid. All of them were all pros. Clemson had an All-American D-line. All of them were maybe first-round potential. Do I think we have first-round potential in our D-line? Possibly. Somebody could pop this year. They have the size. Jordan Patello can get 10 sacks. That's pretty special. So it's going to take a unique effort, but I think the effort from the group and what Marcus Freeman is bringing as a philosophy is going to have our defensive line just fine.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about this. I see everyone chatting about the heavyweight matchup on Friday night between Iowa and South Carolina in the Final Four down in Dallas. I'll just say this. Iowa's not scoring 95 points. I don't know what college basketball y'all been watching. I've been watching Iowa in the Big Ten. Indiana spanked Iowa twice until they got to the Big Ten tournament. Iowa struggled against Ohio State as well. Like, hold on. South Carolina is a whole nother level than Indiana and Ohio State. And I'm not saying they're going to get blown out. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is everybody. No, I don't think they're going to get blown out. I think it's going to be a good game. All I'm telling people is if you have not watched South Carolina, they haven't played Iowa, right? LSU made the Final Four, right? LSU made the Final Four. LSU got decimated by South Carolina twice. It was never close. And they're in the Final Four. South Carolina has a whole nother level, dude. And people need to start giving it the same respect. See, this is what angers me. The same respect that people used to give Geno for what he was building in Connecticut. You better start giving Don Staley the same amount of respect. Because they're not just winning games. They're blowing people out. They're blowing them out in the process. And they did it last year in the tournament. They went through the tournament. They're doing the same thing this year. And well, first of all, baby Steph, Caitlin, she's gonna have to have the game of her life from a scoring standpoint.
She's gonna have to put up something like ungodly, like 68 points or something stupid. Who else is gonna score?
She's gonna have to have the game of her life. They have 5 legitimate players that can score at any time on the court. But guess what they also have? Porous defense.
Oh, yeah. Caitlin don't play no defense either.
So explain to me how they control South Carolina on the boards with 6'4", 6'4", and 6'7" in the paint. See, that's the problem. See, you keep telling me about Caitlin Clark, all the guards and all that. What about 6'4", 6'4", and 6'7"? Because everybody says, oh, this is how we're going to defend that, or this is how we're going to stop that. Nobody's done it. When you bring 6, 7 off the bench, that's a problem.
Off the bench.
Off the bench. That's a dude. 30, they get 30 points off the bench every game. Every game. They average 30 points off the bench in the tournament. So this is Iowa can't wait.
You can't look at numbers for this game. You can't.
Iowa can't get into foul trouble. Iowa can't get into foul trouble. Right? Caitlin Clark can't have an off night. It's too many things. Iowa has to play the quintessential perfect game. And they can. They can. South Carolina just has to beat themselves. That's it.
Yeah, South Carolina doesn't have to do anything special.
They don't have to depend on one person to have a great game. If Z doesn't have it going, then you go inside. If the starters don't have it going, then you bring your 3 freshmen off the bench that put up 30 points a game off the bench. They have too many weapons, man. I don't think people really respect what Don Staley has built. I just really don't. But you'll get a chance to see it. Because it's going to be a cumulative effect. It's not going to be the fact that they're going to come out and just smash Iowa. It's going to be cumulative, man. That size over 4 quarters, you're going to get to a point, and when Iowa starts missing shots, and South Carolina
get heavier,
and South Carolina gets out on the break, that's when they're going to make their run. When South Carolina makes their run, can Iowa counterpunch?
Because South Carolina can play offense too.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's not like offense versus a great defense. This is an offense versus a great defense versus a great offense again.
Iowa has one big. One. And if I'm not mistaken, she's 6'3". One big. They play 4 out, 1 post person. Right? And she is known for getting in foul trouble. She's been in foul trouble, I think, 3 of the games in the tournament. She can't afford to get in foul trouble in this game. If she gets in foul trouble, it's a problem. It's a problem.
Hard to avoid.
It's a problem.
It's going to be hard to avoid.
I can tell you this: if they beat Iowa, it's a wrap. Because I don't care. Because they, first of all, they beat LSU twice by like 20. So if LSU gets to the championship, we might as well just let the confetti drop at the tip. Just let the confetti drop. Like it's over, man. The Iowa game is going to be the tough matchup because it's definitely going to be a chess match between coaches. Dawn is going to have to coach her tail off this game, right? Because Maryland had the offensive game plan to really attack South Carolina because Maryland pushed the ball, right? Because they said we can't let them set up their half-court defense because if we do that, we're not scoring with their size. They lead in shot blocks, they lead in rebounding, and they defend their tails off on the wing. So we can't score against that. So Miller and, man, their guards would get it. They would push. Miller would go one-on-one with the bigs, score early in the shot clock. They were able to get out early in the first quarter. That second quarter came, they started slowing down a little bit.
Yeah, you got to play perfect. Yeah,
that third quarter came, that 6-point lead went to 15. Maryland pulled it back to about 9-8, and then South Carolina hit the gas one more time in the fourth quarter. They just wear on you, dude, with their talent and size. Can Iowa withstand? It's one thing to see it, but it's one thing to go up against it.
I got you.
So if Iowa can counterpunch and stay in it for 4 quarters and keep it close for Caitlin Clark, of course they have an opportunity. It's a tough task. I'm telling you, it's a tough task.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. But you know, the good thing about this is a win-win. You know, great to see a legacy continued by Don Staley in South Carolina, but also it would be great to see a David versus Goliath with Caitlin being the superwoman that she is. I mean, she had 41 last week. She's going to have at least 60 points to even keep it close.
Yeah.
And it's got to be 30 in the first half. Like, she got to start hot and finish hot. But no one's greater right now than Enrique, who back-to-back championship shots. I mean, come on. Like, that's storybook.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see. Like I saw people in the chat talking about guards win in March. Iowa has one. Don Staley has 2 freshman guards coming off the bench that contribute 30 points. Dude, y'all keep talking about South Carolina has everything. They can distribute everything amongst the team, 8, 9 deep. Caitlin Clark has to carry the day, or else Iowa is dead. That's it.
Yeah.
Can she do it? Absolutely. But we're not about to sit up here and talk about South Carolina like they don't have guards.
Because Caitlin can honestly have 40 and they still lose by 20 points.
Heck yeah.
And that's just because it's
Well,
South Carolina just like that.
Don Staley said it best when she met with the media yesterday. She said, we're going to take something away. That's what she said. She said, yo,
it was something.
She said, you can have 40, but you're not going to have 10 assists.
No.
She said, you can have 10 assists, but you're not going to have 40.
But you're not going to have 40.
We're going to take something away.
She on her Bill Belichick in 2008.
It is what it is.
We take away your best thing or whatever. You can have something, but you ain't going to have everything.
Speaking of taking something away, Notre Dame lost some talent to the NFL in the NFL draft. Al Golden talked about replacing that talent.
Of effort. Coach Wash has been, working like crazy around the clock, whether it's getting them tips or making cut-ups for them, so they can do a lot virtually. If they're in between classes, they can look at their iPad and see the notes and know what they need to do the next time they get together. So, and their effort on the field has been good. So we've been rolling guys through there. We've been changing the depth a lot, rolling guys through there. We're not settling into anything at any position right now, and Wash has done an awesome job with them.
So shout out to Coach Washington getting some love from Al Golden on the job he's doing with developing these guys. I said it when Gabriel Rubio got better in the second half. I gave a check to Al Washington for that. Like, okay, I saw someone literally get better throughout the season on the defensive line. We hope that Jason Onyé and Tyson Ford follow suit. And heck, we hope that guys like Riley Mills hasn't kind of like just plateaued and he can take another step. Howard Cross, he takes another step. And ultimately, the defensive line in totality become a pretty, I don't want to say dominant group, but a pretty productive group, a solid group week to week. Because as I said before, I'm sitting there at the pro day and I'm saying to myself from a talent standpoint, Notre Dame's not losing a lot. They're losing Isaiah Foskey, but from a talent standpoint, nah. There has to be more athletic talent on this roster than they lost.
Yeah, we're definitely full of talent. I think that's not questioned. We're just seeing who is going to be the X factor of the talent. Now you got guys like Coach Elston. Coach Elston has a nice track list of a lot of elite D linemen that were very productive at Notre Dame. Can you think of 5 off the top of your head? I'm sure, but those 5 that you think aren't number 1 Will Andersons. So I think that Al Washington is in a similar situation. You're going to have a lot of talented D linemen, a lot that will go to the league.
I agree.
But you get guys like Khalid Kareem, that's a great player, but it's not a Will Anderson. It's not a Nolan Smith. Right. But Khalid Kareem's a 3rd round pick. So that's what makes us a top 5 program. We'll give you a bunch of Khalids and Dalens and Romeos and you can win games.
Right.
But we giving you a Jalen Carter, a Trayvon Walker, a 1st round, D tackle. Maybe every once in blue moon. Right. But those are the difference between us and the 4 programs that have been above us. They've had 1st round pick D linemen. Yeah. Consecutive years. Ohio State had it. Bama does it every year. Georgia does it every year. Clemson did it for a stretch. So if you got first round top 10 pick D lineman, you got a chance in a recipe that you're gonna win the championship. We have third, fourth round. We gonna get guys. Sheldon.
Mm-hmm.
Our first round guy was Jerry, but that was our first and only first round guy.
Right.
And maybe Tuitt, but Tuitt just retired 2 years ago. So, but the second round, Tuitt was second round.
Dude, first of all, Michael Parks is chirping in the chat, trying to bring up when we love Georgia and they lost to Alabama, trying to compare that to South. Let me tell you something. Hey, man, y'all can love Caitlin Clark all y'all want to. I watched the Big Ten bang on Iowa. I watched Ohio State bang Iowa in the regular season, and I watched Indiana smack Iowa in the regular season. So if y'all want to compare Iowa to South Carolina, y'all go right ahead. Y'all fall in love with, Sports Center, highlights. You know what I'm saying? South Carolina is just running the table on everybody, right?
Yeah.
They running the table on everybody. What leads Sports Center? Caitlin Clark. Clark. Okay, let her lead Sports Center.
Okay.
South Carolina just do their thing.
She can have
just do their thing. Yeah, crazy stuff. Don't compare freshman guards. See, that's the problem. I'm not comparing freshman guards. I'm just saying that Don Staley has a bench. Iowa doesn't. Go check the stats. They don't. Don't get mad at me. They don't. It is almost impossible because one person has to beat a team. You have one great player that has to beat a great team.
And she's not LeBron.
So if you want to act like Alabama, if you want to, like Bryce Young walked up into the matchup against Georgia without two top wide receivers. And what happened when both of those wide receivers weren't there? Georgia smacked Alabama.
Yeah.
So if you want to compare games, this Iowa-South Carolina game is going to look more like the championship game when Georgia smacked Alabama. Because she's a one-person show. That's it. So I'm going to tell you, I was trying to be nice. I'm trying to be nice. Okay. I'm trying to be nice. Don Staley's not about to double team Caitlin Clark. They're going to do it in spots. They're going to switch defenders on her. They're going to put about 2 or 3 people on her. They're going to let Caitlin Clark do her thing. But the other players, they're going to be on lock. Because they've never seen defense like this in the Big Ten. I guarantee it. They're going to be on lock. So unless Caitlin Clark, and don't let Caitlin Clark get in foul trouble. Oh, it's really over.
It's over here.
Because you do know Caitlin Clark has the guard on the other end.
She can't float on this team.
Wait a minute, because she plays the 3.
She can't float on this team.
People forget this. She plays the 3. Yeah. South Carolina plays high-low, and the person she's playing against is a big 6'4" person. So have fun. Have fun. Like I said, people don't watch. I watch women's basketball, bro. I know what I'm talking about. Caitlin Clark is a bad son of a gun.
Is she better than us?
If I'm the GM of the Chicago Sky, I'm trying to figure out a way to draft Caitlin Clark this year. It's not even a debate. That's who I want in the WNBA draft. If I'm the GM of the Chicago Sky, I want Caitlin Clark next week.
Is she more of a number 1 than Victor Wembanyama for the NBA?
Oh, Caitlin Clark is.
Victor Wembanyama is the number 1 guy.
I think Caitlin Clark, I would put her a little bit behind Sabrina Ionescu only because of the injury history. If she stays healthy, Caitlin Clark is a WNBA MVP.
Oh.
Waiting to happen. That's how much respect I have for her.
Wow.
In her game. But come on, man. She has to create shots for everybody else.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So you stay home and you let Caitlin Clark do her thing.
Yeah, she have to have 75 points because nobody else on the team is going. She would have to have 2 other players have 20, and she would have to have like 50 or something
You
crazy.
know, they're gonna try to bring the bigs out. They'll bring a Leah Boston out. They'll bring the other bigs out. That's fine.
That's
People
the
have been
thing.
trying
The
to do.
game plan against South Carolina is everybody's game plan. It's not
That's
like you
fine.
going in there with nothing like different because you can't. It's like the recipe's the recipe. You just don't have the players to do it.
See, now people are begging. This is football. Individuals can win football games, basketball games. Really? When's the last time? When's the last time LeBron won without help? When's the last time Michael Jordan won without help? Please tell me. Since individuals win championships in basketball, tell me.
LeBron didn't start winning until he went to Miami. So
Man, look, y'all obviously don't watch basketball close enough, dude. Y'all, Caitlin Clark.
you said they don't watch it close enough.
No, Caitlin Clark is not. If they win, it's not going to be because of Caitlin Clark. It's going to be because of 2 or 3 other people that chipped in and
Whole
had
team,
great games.
yeah.
Absolutely. And even I know that. Like I said, I would take Caitlin Clark with the #1 pick in the WNBA draft next week. Like it's a wrap. Bring her to Chicago right now.
Yeah.
She's an MVP waiting to happen.
The problem is
all I want people to
the whole other
understand.
first round is going to be
All I
filled with
want
South
people to
Carolina.
understand is that as easy as you watched her put up that 40-point triple-double, understand it's not going to be that easy. It's not about to be that easy. But I do love the way she put that Louisville player in her place. I love that. She got extra points for me on that.
Yeah, that Louisville player is like a wannabe her, though. That's why.
See, like Roger Blackman said, Danny Manning, hey, sir, you need to go check the stats and see what Scooter Berry did that game. Somebody that averaged 1 point a game. Go look at his stats for that game. See, people do. I ain't that dude, not basketball. You're not winning a championship just with one person. You're going to need some people to play above and beyond. When Georgetown lost to Villanova, Ed Pickney had the game of his life. Dwayne McClain had the game of his life. You're not winning a game like that unless people play above themselves, and it takes more than one person.
That's
to
what
do
Marcus
that.
Freeman is hoping for.
That's it. So it's going to take at least 2 players on Iowa's roster to have great nights.
At least.
At least. That's the only way it's happening. But I'll be back Monday. You can believe that. I'll be back on Monday. We can talk about it. Jordan Botello, Al Golden. What's up?
He's bigger, he's stronger. He's had a good offseason. Again, the biggest thing with Jordan is just do your job. Don't make it more than it is. Play with poise, play with discipline, stay within the structure, and execute. He has enough talent that if he does that, he'll make a lot of plays for us.
Man, you know what? I feel like we've been hearing about Jordan Botello was coming for like 5 seasons left. He's one of those dudes that it feels like he's been at Notre Dame longer than he has.
He got that Alizé Mac type of track. It's like, man, you supposed to be popping, and then you
Right.
here and everywhere. I see you, I don't see you, I don't know where you at.
Right.
You just show up on Saturdays sometimes, man.
Man, look, let me tell you something. If he doesn't pop this year, I don't know if he'll ever pop at Notre Dame. But he definitely should pop. He definitely should pop.
If he does all the right things, the staff believes he can be a 9 to 10 sacks type of guy.
Yeah, Garen Newsom, that's a good call. Like Rodney Mills should definitely pop this year as well. Or else he's just kind of plateaued and even if he's plateaued and he is Riley Mills, that's productive. That's productive play on the interior.
Yeah, Riley Mills, he's a good player. He's not a great superstar. He's a good player. So a good player give you 5 sacks maybe?
Yeah. Oh, Lilo Galante, that's a good question. I would say yes right now, though. Is Caitlin Clark better than Maggie Secrets? Yeah, I would say yes right now. Heck, but then you got my girl coming back next year at Connecticut. That's coming off that injury. She's going to be dope in the WNBA as well. But Jordan Botello, bro, might be the 10 sacks waiting to happen that we need.
Yeah, because the group is going to give you another 10 throughout the
Yeah,
season.
yeah, yeah,
If he can get 10 solo, I promise you we'll have around 25, 30 sacks on the season.
yeah.
And that's pretty good because we had what 35 last year.
Mm, as a team,
As a team, yeah.
I think it was a surprising stat, something like that. I have to check that out. Let's see, find it real quick right here, left. For those of you that want me stats, teamrankings.com. Teamrankings.com gives you really good stats. Here it is, left. Let's see. Yeah, you're right, left. Good call.
Where was I at? Where was I at with it?
You're right on.
35 sacks last year.
Okay. That was a surprise. Turnovers, that's a great point, Michael. Turnovers are more important. Sacks are one thing, but I would take an increase in turnovers over sacks. Not that I want sacks to just go away, but if you're telling me we can increase to getting an average in 2 turnovers per game with
That
this offense, that, yeah,
If we get 2 turnovers game, I think we should convert that into an offense that should be around 35 plus points a game. Because we should
that's too
convert
low. That's too low. No, we're not doing that this year. Remember, we're not low
35.
balling for this offense. 30, that's low ball. 35, 38. We a minimum. We're
Oh,
starting at
that's right.
38.
That's right. That's right.
Minimum,
Yeah.
minimum 38. You talking about getting 2 turnovers per game?
Yeah.
That's minimum 10 points a game off turnovers. If you get 2 turnovers per game with this offense, from what we expect, I think it's safe to say that you could get 10 points per game off turnovers. That should put you at about 38 points per game. I don't think that'll be difficult.
Yeah, I think, with Sam looking like he's lighting it up in spring practice, giving him the ball enough times closer to the end zone, which we've had opportunities for. We had
Yeah.
it 7 times in the red zone against Ohio State and came up with nothing. So to give an experienced guy 7 opportunities in the red zone against a top 5 team, we're looking to cash in.
You mean 7 times on the Ohio State side of the field? Four
Yeah,
times in the yeah, 7 times in their territory. I think it was 4 times in the red zone, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, we're cashing in. We have to.
Yeah. Yeah. So 38. 35 is low ball in this offense, in my
35 with
opinion.
Tyler, 38 with Sam. Because I don't think Tyler is passing at a level to where I would say 38 points. Unless our defense is just like we said, we get 3 turnovers a game or something crazy like that.
But this is the crazy thing. The names change and the coaches change. The defensive coordinators change. But the Notre Dame defense over the last 7 years has pretty much given up the same amount of points. The Notre Dame defense, names change. You lose people to the NFL. You lose great players. You lose Kyle Hamilton in the secondary. You don't know what the secondary is going to be like. Benjamin Morrison ends up popping. Like, Notre Dame always ends up finding a way to hold teams below their scoring average every time they face someone. USC was the only team, I think, that equaled their scoring average last year. So defensively, Notre Dame finds a way to be serviceable or even more than serviceable from a defensive standpoint.
That's right.
Now, you get the bump offensively and you start going up to 38 points per game. That takes pressure off of the Notre Dame defense. You know the amount of pressure that was on the Notre Dame defense last year? I'm talking about going into the game, in the locker room, getting taped up. The Notre Dame defense knew, look, man, we cannot let these teams score 20 points.
That's right. We're going to be in trouble.
That's crazy in college football. That's not a good feeling if your defense is in the locker room saying, look, we cannot allow 20 points. In today's college football,
2012, what were they? We can't give up 10.
Right. That was the mindset in 2012. Like 10 points is it. Right?
Give up more
Here
than
we
10
are.
in big trouble.
Yeah, here we are in 2023.
We give up 25, it's over. We might lose.
Right. But
Don't let
now
a team score more than 2 touchdowns first half, because then we really, really in trouble.
the Notre Dame defense has to feel like, yo, if we give up 24 points this year, we're good. We winning by 2 touchdowns.
The team got to score at least 32 to beat us.
That's the way you have to feel right now. That's the way you have to feel right now. So I like it. Uh-oh. We got our third co-host in the building. I'm gonna call him. That's the millionaire NIL right there. That's the millionaire NIL.
That's the millionaire
right there.
NIL right here.
He's the millionaire NIL right there.
I'm trying to get on his work on his editing and producing in the background. You know, we got to work on his lighting, stage presence, and stuff.
You talked about Al Golden's second year and what it might look like. He talked about it as well with the media. Here's what he had to say, Left.
This offseason was to look at the opponents first and then plan, then chart the course. Last year, you know, I probably had, it was probably 2 working weeks, you know, with the spring break. So 3 total from the time I landed here to spring football. So it was really challenging. So for me, I learned a lot just by quality controlling myself. What defenses we need, what didn't we call that maybe we practiced. What do we need more of? What showed up in the game plans consistently throughout the year? And obviously I watched some of the opponents ahead of time. So have a real good grasp of what we need, what we don't need, and just trying to keep it as tight as we can from a package standpoint.
Yo, you know what? What he said at the end is the best thing. I found out what we need and I found out what we don't need. And as long as he found out that blitz from the safety 20 yards away is something we don't need, I'm all for it.
He can throw it out.
Throw it out. We don't need it.
It said the way you fix the problem is identifying it. And it seems like we've gotten that. I think we could have told him that week 1 and could have got a lot farther, a lot faster.
Man. But explain that, Left. He's pointed out, you know, last year, short time, I really didn't get a chance to come in, but I had more time in the offseason to really, really dig deep into our opponents and prepare for our opponents week to week.
Yeah, I think once, especially a defensive coordinator coming from the NFL, you're game planning based on your the amount of or volume of film you have on the other team. Your first year doing it, playing the schedule is kind of up in the air. You're not getting a real read on teams because you're looking at how they're playing other teams. You want to get to see what your team looks like playing against your formations and the stuff that you're doing. You know, NFL, you playing those guys twice a year. You're seeing the same kind of players every year. So it's a lot harder and a lot easier to game plan because you know tendencies a lot more. When you're playing a college football schedule, man, you especially if you're not playing the same teams like Notre Dame is every year, you're way more on the fly. You have to rely a lot more on coaching
Yeah.
on a player's perspective. But when you're in the NFL, you got a stack of library on teams and defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators and what teams like to do and players that have been there for 10 plus years. So this is more of a run and shoot when you're preparing for a college football game, especially as an independent. Now, if we was in the ACC, I'm sure Dabo Swinney has tons of North Carolina film to look at, even if
Right.
Drake May is
Right.
there.
Right.
You
Right.
know, I
Right.
don't care if Drake
Right.
May is there. I got North Carolina library.
Just library. Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
go to the code.
Yeah.
I can get
Yeah.
prepared. But without going, he's like, man, at least I got 2 years of looking at SC. I have a better chance.
Yeah.
And for a guy like that, that's just looking for another year to stack information, I think that's going to make it better for him calling plays next year.
And as Notre Dame continues to expand their analyst staff, more information, the better information you can get to your coaches, the better things can flow and the better they can prepare for the opponents. So shout out to Notre Dame investing in that and adding to the analysts on the Notre Dame staff. Left, we leave with great news. We've been talking women's basketball. Some great news possibly. And this tweet comes from my guy, Levon Whitaker, who, by the way, is going to join us on Friday. Right? We thought it was originally Thursday. We thought that Michael Shrewsbury's press conference would be today. That's originally what we were told. It is moved to Thursday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern. His introductory press conference will be tomorrow. But this coming from Levon Whitaker on Twitter. Washington High and South Bend native Mila Reynolds, who I just watched, she just played against South Carolina with Maryland. She can shoot it. She can dribble. She is entering the transfer portal. And most people think that she's headed to South Bend to join the Fighting Irish. So, they get deeper, more depth. That's great news. Once again, South Bend native and Washington High School grad Mila Reynolds, who just went to the Elite Eight with Maryland, is entering the transfer portal. And it looks like she might be joining the Ivy and the Fighting Irish. That's great news for Coach Ivy and the women's basketball program.
Recruits coming up.
You have to do it via the portal and recruiting.
Who did we lose? Who did we lose to again in the tournament?
They lost to Maryland.
Yeah, Maryland. Yeah,
they lost to Maryland, which I'm cool with because I would have not wanted to watch them against South Carolina.
What? We're a couple years away for real.
Not without. No, it was just like it would not have been fair because Notre Dame struggled in the paint this year, and you take Olivia Miles away from that game. Basically, your best two players are injured. That it would have been a great experience for Centron and the rest of the squad, but Maryland was just too much. Maryland was too much, and Maryland deserved to move ahead and play South Carolina. So, who was that? I'm sorry, John Monty. Oh, John, I'm sorry to hear that, man. And I speak that divine healing finds you wherever you are, and whatever issue it is, we speak that it comes into correction, and your body operates as it was meant to operate. And we pray that for you right now, John. And we'll continue to pray that for you. You stay strong and you continue to believe and continue to listen to your doctors as well. Continue to listen to your doctors and choose to be happy, man. The best is yet to come for you, John. Absolutely. The best is yet to come. We had these questions we had to get to. These comments. Super chat from my guy, Truman Theodore Dumel. He says, Notre Dame football is on the cusp of greatness. Shaun, as a recruiting guru, what will make us a program that can't be ignored and feared?
Winning solves all, I think.
Dude, we've said this, right? If Notre Dame wins, college football is in trouble.
Yeah,
with Marcus Freeman.
Just
but
because we
from a
recruiting
recruiting standpoint, From a recruiting standpoint, I think we both agree, Left, defensive line and quarterback.
That's it.
Defensive line and quarterback. That's
It. That's it. Give us a Nolan Smith.
yeah, defensive line and quarterback. Notre Dame takes that step in recruiting. Watch out. Frank McCatry says Iowa versus South Carolina's must-see TV, flat-out heavyweight title fight. Totally agree. Totally agree.
I got a question of the day.
This is the type of game, in my opinion, that shines a spotlight that needs to be shined every year on women's college basketball. I mean, everybody's not like me, Left. I'm sorry. I sit up late at night. I watched the Ole Miss Stanford game in the tournament when Ole Miss walked into Maples and sent Stanford home as a #1 seed. You know, I watched Ole Miss lose the very next game. Like, I watch college basketball. You know, I watched the SEC women's tournament. I watched the Big Ten tournament when Iowa, ended up pulling off the upset over Indiana. Like, I love basketball. I'll go watch some grammar school kids around the corner. Like,
Okay.
I just love basketball. I just do. Coach Vic says, what do you think about Anthony Knapp, offensive lineman, visited Notre Dame this past weekend. He'll be making his decision later on today at 5 p.m. Eastern, I believe. And I believe that's going to be carried over an Irish breakdown. I'll be co-hosting or joining Brian Driscoll for that announcement. And I actually like him. And I know this is someone that, a lot of people, and I said this before, Notre Dame in the offensive line in 2024 can afford to be picky.
He's been good.
Can afford to be picky, Left. What I mean by that, they have so much depth in the offensive line that they can really pick and choose. They have Peter Jones. They can wait on Gerby Lambert. They have Caleb Brewer coming to campus this weekend. So they have big-time guys that they have to wait on a little bit longer that they can get. So they can afford to fall in love with a kid, if they've seen him at camp or they like his film. He might not necessarily be ranked according to the stars and rankings where most people would like. Dude, the talent they have and the depth they have in that room, they can afford to go get a kid that they believe in, right? And if this kid is someone they believed in, the visit went great. And I think Notre Dame fans later on this evening, it's a great possibility that Notre Dame fans will be celebrating.
That's right.
Possibly adding to the 24 class. So
Yeah.
I hope that helped you out, Coach Vic. Joe Medina, my only concern with Sam is that at Wake, he didn't consistently get the ball to the players in stride. One of the reasons he had a bad draft grade. If he fixes that, I think this team can be special. Talk about that, Left, because based upon what we've seen a bunch of throws down the sideline. We've seen back shoulder throws and deep passes completed from Sam Hartman. This goes to Joe Medina's point. How important is it going to be for Notre Dame to attack the middle of the field as well?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to change for Sam's evaluation in a year to have a stronger arm. I think with better talent, he'll be able to have a chance to have better anticipation. Tommy never had a strong arm, and his anticipation was his best gift, which, got him a chance in camp. And Sam wasn't a bona fide #1 pick anyway, so him to have an opportunity to look better in a system that's better suited for him, I think we'll see the balls going down the field at the right time, but for what he can handle. I don't think we're going to ask him to Patrick Mahomes his way down the field because we have a running game. So, if he can throw it 40 yards down the field and lead him in stride, we're good with that because we couldn't do that before.
I agree with that. Lucky Lefty podcast. Great show today, Left. So we spend it different, dude. We do shows
That's right.
from offices, living rooms, cars, on the road. Man, look, let me tell you something. When I tell you we bring it different and we spend it different, that's what we do.
The last one, I'm trying to get on the plane next time. Be on the
Now, that'll be dope.
on the
That'll
runway.
be dope. That'll be dope. Left, we have a tremendous and humongous announcement coming up tomorrow on the show.
That's right.
At the start of the show, you guys be here. Big time news for the show. Big time news for the community of South Bend. And we're just appreciative to be part of it. Don't miss
Yes,
it
we
at the
are.
start of tomorrow's show. We'll have a special guest. We'll make that announcement, and then we'll continue to give you the best there is in Notre Dame and college football conversation. Heck, women's college basketball, men's college basketball.
We
Heck,
do it
I,
all.
I
We
might
do
have Steve. We might have Stephen Bardo on tomorrow to preview the Final Four. That's how we do it. That's
how we
how we
get
do it.
down.
We
That's
spin
right.
it different. You know what time it is, left.
Petticoat, petticoat, petticoat junction.
It's time to get petty
Oh, we did a good job executing.
Are you upset with something?
and fire up the Petticoat Junction train.
I just don't like you.
You don't?
No.
What is today's petty historic? Petty Junction.
Petty Junction, Petty Story of the Day brought to you by Onora Whiskey at NoraWhiskey.com. That premium American whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. Left. I don't know if you saw this, man. The internet is undefeated, bro.
Yes.
Did you see the troll that someone did on LeBron James, bro? Now,
Which one? Which one?
I'm usually, I usually love picking on LeBron, but I saw this and I said to myself, this is one of the pettiest things I've ever saw. But the internet is undefeated as always, bro. It's undefeated, and I just had to show this. I said, Left has to see this.
And the Oscar goes to
LeBron James.
This is the first Oscar.
Oh! Bro, let me tell you something. That right there, whoever did that, I don't know who put that together, but that was creative, wonderfully done. Hey man, look, that cat Bron does a lot of
He
acting on the court.
deserves.
He does a lot of acting on the court. So whoever put that together, man, kudos to you. You did a great job of editing and everything. It looked authentic. It looked like he was at the Oscars.
The internet has way too much time on their hands. It tells you that too. Look like a real Oscar award.
Doma Wop said, play it again. Oh man, let me see if I can share it one more time so everyone can see it that probably missed it or came in on the middle of it. I thought it was fantastic. Once again, someone trolling LeBron James for the many ways that he acts on the basketball court. Put together this entire feature of LeBron James winning the Oscar. And this is
Or biggest flop.
the fact that Dylan Brooks is the other person in the clip with him is like bananas.
Best supporting
right?
actor.
Exactly. Best supporting
Biggest-
actor.
For the one that most hated.
All right. Here we go.
And the Oscar goes to
LeBron James. This is the first Oscar and sixth nomination for LeBron James.
Jay-Z giving him the award.
Right. Denzel clapping for him. Giannis is like, wow.
The Weeknd. Yeah. He deserves all of it, though. You know,
Oh,
LeBron
yeah. That D Wade reaction was the best, though. A true reaction if LeBron ever won an Oscar. Well, man, look, great show, everyone. Hope you have an incredible hump day. Enjoy the rest of this last season of Snowfall. This is the first episode without Unc. It's going to be tough to watch, but we'll find a way to soldier through. Have a great Wednesday. We'll see you guys tomorrow with a big announcement, and we'll hear from the linebackers at Notre Dame, one of the groups we think are about to become fast rising stars on this team.
That's
also,
right.
wait a minute, we forgot. You were supposed to give the faces of Notre Dame football. Your Mount Rushmore for this season. Give me the 4 faces of Notre Dame football this year.
This season, we going Audrey Estime, Cam Hart, Josh Lugg. I mean, not Josh Lugg. Joe Alt. And then we throw Marcus Freeman on there.
Okay. I'll go Sam Hartman, Jalen
You
Sneed.
can't throw Sam Hartman in there. He just got there.
Now you decide who I want to put on my Mount Rushmore, Sam?
I'm just playing.
I'm going to go Sam Hartman, Jalen Sneed, Benjamin Morrison, and I'm going to go Joe Alt. I'll go Joe Alt with you.
Joe Alt, yep.
Yeah. Those are my 4 faces of Notre Dame football on the Mount Rushmore. Have a great day. We appreciate you guys. Don't forget, Apple Podcasts and Spotify drops at 3 o'clock every day. Lucky Lefty Podcast. Have a great day, but most of all, make sure that you spin it different.